Today we're going to be looking at workplace relationships, the good, bad and the ugly of workplace relationships. And everybody experiences one or more of these as they go through their careers. I certainly have experienced all of them. And I think hopefully the tools that Nick and Emma are going to be providing you will help you navigate those situations a little bit better than otherwise would be the case. So I'm going to be the host, but very soon I will be passing on to Nick and Emma. So before we do that, just a quick refresh in terms of what is Ethical Reading. So Ethical Reading is a not-for-profit social enterprise. In fact, we are a community interest company. We were set up around 4 years ago, and our focus very much is around encouraging and embedding ethical behaviours inside organisations. I'm delighted to see Pennington's represented here today, so that's fantastic, and we welcome to these events our partners and to general members of the public. And our focus we want to achieve through three core aims, which is to inspire individuals and organisations that when they make decisions, they make them in the round, and we want to inspire them through events like this and other events for business-focused areas with eminent speakers to give them inspiration, hopefully, in terms of and extra knowledge and tools to be able to make decisions, better decisions, and in the round. So education is a key element of what we do, but we do very much believe in collaboration because as small as we are, and we're very, very small, we're primarily led through volunteers. We've got Roz there as one of our key volunteers at the back, and they drive a lot of the programs that we actually deliver across our various initiatives. In due course, what we hope is what we're doing here is actually a template for other cities, and we are working with other cities across the piece to try and create a bottom-up approach around this ethical cities movement, if you like. We couldn't do what we do without the support of our partners and our supporters. So I'm very, very proud to be able to show you who are our partners and supporters. So it's fantastic to see them, and they provide knowledge, tools, resources, encouragement to do the kind of things that we do, which is fantastic. So the agenda very much is, as I said before, after this quick introduction, I'm going to hand over to Emma and Nick, and they will go through an initial presentation around the topic, and then we'll break out into probably 2 or 3 groups and discuss some of the things, come back, reconvene, and share our thoughts after that, and we'll wrap up. So just a little bit on the speakers. So Emma, it's a husband and wife tag team today, so I'm delighted.
How do they go?
So ideally suited to talk about relationships. So fantastic to have Emma back. So Emma has been a presenter for us over the years, pretty much from year dot really. So she's been a volunteer and a presenter, service provider. She's provided training courses to organisations, and has been a key driver of our Healthy and Ethical Workplaces initiative. Very much focused around mental health and counselling, and does a lot of counselling in your spare time as well for Samaritans. So fantastic. And Nick has just joined our board. So thank you very much, Nick, for coming along and doing that, and he has extensive experience in sales. Do introduce yourself further as you do. But now I'm going to hand over to you, and you can take it from there.
I am. Thank you very much. Okay. So I think what you'll hear from myself and Nick are quite different approaches, because I come from a background of I'm a qualified counsellor. I teach people to become counsellors, but I also teach wellbeing courses as well to members of the community who come to some of my training courses. So, and I also work for a college, and I'm a course director. So I come at education and also well-being. So that's what you'll hear from me, and I think it'll be quite different from Nick, because you'll hear kind of a top-down, so from a senior management position with regards to how he sees things in business will be a very different approach to mine. So hopefully we complement each other quite well. Okay, so we're going to be talking about workplace relationships, and this is our cunning plan. So first of all, we're going to look at the beginning of the relationship. So what's it like when you begin in a workplace? What sort of things would you be looking for which would make you think, this is where I'm going to fit in, this is where I can get a good relationship with an organisation? And what might be the red flags to be looking out for? So this is the hints and tips that Gurpreet was speaking about. Then we're going to look at maintaining and enhancing the relationship. So once you've got past the induction, what's it like actually working in an organisation longer term? And what sort of things can you put in place that is going to enable you to thrive in a workplace? And then we're going to look at ending the relationship with where you work and why you would do that. So where are the big red flags? What would be happening for you to go, this is no good for my mental health and well-being, I've got to look at my exit strategy at this point. Okay, so first of all, many of you might have seen this model before. Have you seen this model? So this is Maslow's hierarchy. Have you heard of this one? Okay, some of you have. I'll just go through it briefly. So the reason why I'm showing you this is because this relates directly to many of the things that happen in work. So these are the things that we need to thrive as human beings. So if we look at the very basic level, physiological needs, air, water, food, shelter. And when you think about work, it provides us with money so that we can live and eat, very basic needs. Then when we look at safety needs, these are things like our security, it's about our employment, resources, health and property. So actually, working in an environment where you feel safe is going to be really important. So for example, if you were working in quite a toxic environment where you felt like there would be bullying, harassment, you would see that, okay, you might be getting your weekly or monthly pay slip, but you don't feel safe where you are, so you're never going to thrive in an organisation. Then you look at love and belonging. So here, specifically related to work, it's going to be a sense of connection. So that idea of I feel connected to where I work. And I feel like I'm a part of a team, and this feels collaborative, and I feel valued for providing my feedback. That's what that gives us. Esteem needs, so things like respect, status, recognition. I think the fact that, prime example here, Gurpreet mentioned Roz's work as a volunteer. That's an example of recognising the strength and effort that people put into their work. And just having the freedom, if you like, to do your own thing and have a little bit of autonomy and show your skills. If you're managed like a rat in a trap by your manager, where you can't show autonomy, you're never going to feel like you're showing your unique strengths and talents. And then at the top is self-actualization, which I would kind of disagree with. I feel it's actualizing, because I don't think any of us ever finish. And that's kind of a nature of human beings. If we take the lovely Gurpreet who's just finished 100 miles of running, I doubt he's just hung up his training shoes at this point. It's likely that there'll be a different goal, and that's what we do. So, and you can see how if, for example, you work in an environment where you don't feel safe, you don't feel you belong, you're not getting recognition, you're never going to thrive. So just if you ever hear a narrative from people you work with, which is, oh, I just go there, I just, clock in, clock out, it's just about the money, the way that will impact their well-being, they will be losing on all of these areas. And I would say that they're probably quite deluded that actually it's just, that's all they're getting, but actually the impact will be quite significant to their well-being. And I think this is useful for us to bear in mind, and it will come up as we kind of go through. So I'll just hand over to Nick now, who's going to take us through the beginning of the relationship.
Thanks. So my background is very different. I've spent 25 years in the corporate world, climbing the greasy poles, sales, commercial strategy. I've worked as a manager, senior manager and director in about 3 different companies in the automotive world and also in the security sector. I've spent a lot of time interviewing, being interviewed, and also developing programs to get people from entry level all the way up, so management development programs. So from my point of view, the relationship in any organisation, it probably starts a little bit before the interview in terms of your interaction, when you're getting feedback and in being invited. But for the purpose of today and the timing, we'll stick with the interview. It's probably going to be your first experience of being face-to-face. I know we've had a pandemic, but these days, if you get your first interview and it's not an online video call, then it will be face to face. And I think, as we all know, most of what we interpret from one another is not the verbal words. It is the tonality and the body language, which you get less of. But the point about the interview is that when, as an individual, you are walking or preparing yourself to go into that environment, which is never comfortable, you're outside your comfort zone, is that you're not thinking about assessing the interviewers behind the other side of the table. Your subconscious actually is already doing that, because you'll get a gut feel 10-15 minutes in as to whether or not this place is right for me. But that's very important, because when they talk about, your impressions are made in the first few seconds, yes they are, but it works both ways. You as the candidate walking into that room will be assessing the setup, everything. We'll discuss a few of the components later on. Moving on to the induction. So the interview process is quite formal, it's quite rigid. When you get into the induction, it becomes a mixture of both. So you have your formal induction from health and safety, equipment, clothing, whatever it is that you're getting. But actually the informal is when you're meeting your team for the first time, and your manager, the coffee breaks. And I've got down UGRs. These are the unwritten ground rules. These are the things that aren't in any corporate manual, that actually make a huge difference to you being a success or failure in that organisation. One example of one of the places I worked with, that the CEO refused to have anyone leave their jacket on the back of their chair. It was one of his things. That wasn't in a manual, you didn't get told that. But if you left your jacket on the back of the chair, guess what? Not a very good appraisal coming up. So our first little exercise, and I've decided to do this where you'll be looking at the things that should be in place as opposed to the things that go wrong, because, to be honest, we could end up turning this into a huge agony aunt session about all the things and experiences that everyone's had that haven't gone well in an interview or an induction process. So I'm probably guessing in groups of threes, just spend the next 5-10 minutes thinking as yourself as a candidate in an interview, and also as a inductee in your first day and your first week. What things would give you that warm, fuzzy feeling about the organisation, about how you're treated when you go into an interview, and also what your expectation is when you turn up? And I'll give you one example. Most of you are probably on LinkedIn. You've all seen the pages of someone's desk on their induction day, where their laptop's got a bow on it, their pass is hung over it, they've got a cup, a pen, the firm's calculator, all these little things that are there to create a nice impression, because that's what you want to feel like. So if you can, in the next 5-10 minutes, think about what you would like to feel and the things that would make that possible in the interview, and also in your first day or your first week. Let's get a couple of ideas, good things for interviews from the first quartet here. What would you like to see happen in an interview?
To be treated like an individual and not as just a number. I was saying that one of the things that went really badly for an interview that I attended not so long ago was it felt like it was very sort of formulaic questions, and that she wasn't actually interested in getting to know me as the person. So,
good point.
Treating that person like an individual and letting the conversation kind of flow.
That could be nerves, it could be a young interviewer, or it could be HR scripting. You've got to get through these questions first, which is not great.
Yeah.
Anything else for an interview? Or
I think a common thing was just the basics. Somebody smiling and welcoming you, and shaking.
It's not hard, is it? It's not hard, but
that just makes you feel better.
And what about induction? A couple of things you'd love to see when you started on your first day or first week.
Well, I was saying that my experience of joining the Penningtons was the head of the family department Zoom bombing me, because it was all during COVID. And she Zoom bombed me, and she got my CV up in front of me, and she was feeding back stuff from my CV that she thought was quite interesting, and she was preparing an email to introduce me to the family department. And that's good. That was really included for it, like in a point in time when everything was quite
Excellent. That's quite good. Showing genuine interest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Group 2 at the back. Interviews.
I think there were sort of kind of key themes that we were focusing on was transparency. The example I gave was around like salary negotiations. I think some companies it's very much
It's a black art. It's a black art.
Whereas the experience I had, it's strange, the people behind me sat right next to me. At Trust, it was very much, I told them this is what I make now, can't afford to pay the cut, and then they came back and said, okay, we can offer you slightly more, this is the offer on the table, we give you this much holiday, it's up to you, let us know. So they gave me the time and space to think about it, there was no pressure, you have to decide now you lose it kind of thing. And it wasn't, it was just, this is as it is kind of thing. So I think that for me was a really
so again personal, personal
absolutely.
touch.
And also you were saying as well about boundaries were really important as well from sort of both sides. So the fact that what I didn't know as a candidate was that in the background there was a lot of discussions previously about, okay, this is our range, we want to try and bring people in at a sort of mid-level to give them a chance to sort of work up a bit and show their worth and that sort of thing. So the fact that the person who's now my line manager already knew all of that and was able to have that conversation with me confidently and offer what she thought was fair, made it a lot easier to have that discussion.
Expectation management.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, I think those are sort of the key two.
Okay, and first week, so induction. Mug with your name on it? No, I'm joking.
There is a few things. I think you were saying about equality.
Yeah, it's everybody gets treated exactly the same. It doesn't matter what level within our company. Can't work out. Our top man, Patrick Roger, does not have an office. He does not have a desk. He has a cocoa desk, exactly the same as the rest of us do when we go in. So it's
He can pop up next to you at any time.
That's why he's doing it.
It's any of the senior management team. It's total equality within.
It's very good to hear.
And there's no backpedaling on. You get told this is how many holidays you take in a year. You have to, and it's even to the part where the company is closed during the Christmas period. You are told that straight away. It doesn't come as a shock once you start that you all of a sudden.
So again, very good.
Holiday, but you've got to take that holiday.
Very good expectation management, I think, which is critical.
Exactly.
The well-being side of things is something we have values which we promote when we're recruiting, when we're all part of our process in HR, and we added an additional value last year. And the well-being side is really important, especially after the pandemic.
Yeah.
We realise a lot of people have got burnout, just being at home, just being on team calls constantly, and so it's something they're really wanting to invest in. And so it's quite early on, but it's something that everybody is, all for it, and we're trying to make sure that everybody experiences that as they come through. Just an example is I've just given everybody within the business access to an app which was a paid app previously, and anyone who paid for it, well-being, mental health, if you paid for it already, we take on with subscription, and it's just something we just rolled out. It's not for everybody, but it's there to show that we understand that people sometimes need that. And again, I'm from the other side because I'm kind of wolf on the other side of the table. But we do spend a lot of time making sure that people who are being invited to interview, being offered contract, that they have everything that they need to know before they make that decision. And I think we're really good as well because we're also a 35-hour week, and it's something we definitely promote that I'm not saying we all work 35 hours, but it's something we promote. It's not like you come to an interview and then at the end of it, it's a 48-hour week. Everything is there, so people got that understanding.
Excellent.
Bring that back to induction, I think what's really important is seeing that the promises that are made in an interview are being upheld. Yeah. So that's sort of when there's a bit of a mismatch between what you expected and what you get. I think it's always a bit of a red flag.
I think the fancy word for that is congruency, when it's basically all the the Ron Seal moment. It does exactly what it says on the tin. Okay, anything from this group which I was part of? So, in terms of interview.
Well, we thought it was very important in interviews that people were genuine, and that the panel the interviewing panel introduced themselves, maybe even put their own names up facing the candidates. So
That's a good idea.
Remember those of us who can't remember their names.
Oh yeah, considering the circumstances, that the person's going to be very nervous to say, hi, this is da-da-da. Forgotten the names already, so...
And then we talked about it during induction, how important it is that the person feels like he or she is getting a warm introduction, invited for coffee with colleagues, not being just left alone.
So buddied up for day one, handheld, taken around. Yeah, that's all good. A couple of stats for you. So the first one is that pre-COVID, 9,000 candidates were interviewed again, sadly, and asked when they made the decision that they were happy to join the company or not, even before they got to second interview or were even offered a job. Nearly half of them had made their decision in the first interview as to whether or not they carry on. And for induction, if people aren't happy with the induction, that colours their entire experience with that company, and if it's not a good one, sadly, they don't last very long. And as soon as they become unhappy, again, a survey done in November last year, 60% of people would leave within 6 months if they're not happy. Now we know the job market's like at the moment, it's much more buoyant. The average time a person's spending in a job, I was shocked when I was doing a bit of research on this, is down to something like 4.1 years now. People are staying in a job. So it's come down hugely.
Where has it come down from?
I didn't go back that far, but I mean, I'm still on LinkedIn with loads of people I worked at Honda.
Yeah.
One of the guys had his 27th anniversary, another one had their 25th anniversary. Yeah. So I'm thinking, that means there are lots of people at the other end of the scale job hopping.
Which must, yeah, I mean, I was 20 years in one job, for example. But I think those people are rare.
Only two companies in my territory.
So when you're saying about the amount of time, are you talking the amount of time with the company or
Yes.
the amount of time in one role?
No, the amount of time with the company.
That's a good point, actually,
Yeah.
because in many ways, because I was in one company for 20 years, but every 3 years or so I changed roles.
Yeah.
So you get a new experience.
Yeah. Okay, so those are some very good. We said we would cover the bad and the ugly, so I will cover some of the bad. And I've either been in the room when these have happened, or people have told me about them in the work environments that I've been in. So, interview, no clear and joining instructions. People don't know where they need to be. They're nervous enough. If it's not clear what's going on, it's a real shocker. You're not registered at reception. Sorry, who are you? Yeah, I'm so-and-so, I come for an interview. These are tiny, tiny basics, many of these, but they will make that person feel so much better going into the interview. Room not ready or organised at last minute. I've been in so many where we've had new systems of iPads on the doors and a meeting room's been double booked. You're sat down, the candidate's in there, someone more senior with an entourage comes in and says, sorry, we've got the meeting room booked. Horrible experience. Interviewers not ready to CV. How many of these people, rooms have you been in when people are flicking through your CV when you're in the room with them? Not great. Distractions or disinterest. I have received a text while I was in a meeting interviewing someone from one of the interviewers going, I'm bored, get rid of them. So that's for me it's a complete no-no. Not offering to take refreshment or to give a refreshment. The interviewee should be doing 60 to 70% of the talking. So they're going to have a dry throat, they're nervous enough, the adrenaline's flowing, heart rate's up. Again, this was covered earlier, so it feels like a process or sausage factory going through the same HR questions in that monotone. Where do you want to be in 5 years' time? Not here. Unable to answer your questions, so some valid questions about what's the starting salary, how big is the team. Been in rooms where people have been subbed in and they don't know anything about the team they're recruiting this person for. It's very scary. what sort of impression, again, does that give? Right, when will I know? What's the next stage? We don't know. We'll get back to you. It happens. Or not even offered any time for your questions. You've got 2 or 3 good questions. Sorry, we've run out of time. Again, the last point there, who is the most important person in the room? You are recruiting someone that is going to either be the face of your company or make a difference to your company. It's not the most senior manager that's wandered in chewing a biscuit with a half-drunk cup of coffee going, right, where's the next person? They are not the most important person in the room. You are as the candidate. And a lot of companies forget that. And it's this prep. This is the reason why nearly half the people that go into an interview have made their decision about whether or not they want to work there before they've left that first meeting. So let's talk about the ugly now in induction. And this has happened to me. HR don't know you're joining today. I joined the company as a director. And I got told, oh, we were expecting you 2 weeks ago. So we expected me 2 weeks ago. Why didn't you phone me? Oh, it was just in the pending file. Sorry. So weird stuff does happen. No desk. We've talked about this. No desk, no computer, no equipment. Horrible scenarios where people are just made to feel like they shouldn't be there. And this is, as I say, this is what colours. A bad induction will mean that they will leave pretty soon. No building access pass, so you haven't even got some of the basics to log in or check in, and you wander around with what we used to call the badge of shame, which is the visitor's pass, when you forgot your own pass. You all know the one. No health and safety briefing. The worst thing I've experienced is someone who you've been buddied up to on your first day. As the new candidate, you're feeling apologetic to them because it's not their job, and the person that should be there isn't there, and that creates a real sense. Your line manager can be on holiday as long as the whole situation is managed. But these sound like, oh, no, these don't happen. They've happened, believe me, and they happen more often than not. No expectation. So the first thing when someone joins on that first day is, right, this is how your day is going to pan out. We're going to go and get your equipment. I'm going to introduce you to the team. We'll have a coffee break with them first. You're going to have lunch with so-and-so. You've got briefings with this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy. And then that'll be the end of your day. And by 4 o'clock you'll be done. So we're going to send you home early to refresh and come back the following day. That's expectation management. And that makes someone feel really good. They know what's happening. They feel confident.
But also, it links in with our pyramid that I showed earlier, which is safety. People need to feel safe when they're at work. So if we reflect on some of the things that Nick has already shared, it feels respectful. If you're feeling like you're a burden to people, you're not. That doesn't feel help. That makes you feel really inconvenient, and especially when you're already quite nervous. So a lot of those values about transparency and wanting to.
It's in the. I mean, you're right. It's absolutely in the last statement. Are you feeling the love? Does it feel like they want you there? They spent all this time interviewing you, all this time going through the process, and yet when you turn up, it feels like, you haven't gone through any of it. You should be, walking in going, yeah, it was me. I'm the successful one. Show the respect. So that. As I say, those things I've either experienced from either side of the table, and you learn from them. You actually, as everyone knows, you probably learn a lot more from a bad line manager than you do from a good line manager, because you know all the things that you won't do to people when you become a manager. Right, so I've covered the first couple of stages of the relationship, so that's from your first meeting, in terms of interview through to the induction. I'll hand back over to Emma now, who will take you through the relationship in work.
Yeah, so some of you might be familiar with the term habits. So you might have heard of somebody called Stephen Covey. He's written a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So the first 3 are what are within those 7 habits. So when we say seek first to understand, then to be understood, it can be really difficult in organisations where you just think, I just want to get my point across. I want to feel heard. But actually, one of the greatest things I found is actually if I shut this and I use these, it's really, really powerful. So rather than going, especially if someone is saying, I want this to happen, and you say, no, but we can't, this has to happen, it can feel quite confrontational. So let me understand you. So what's your position? So someone will then tell you what it is that they need from you within their team. And then you say, right, so what I've heard is this, this and this. Is that correct? So clarifying what you've heard, that can really say to someone, oh, they've heard me. They've valued what I've said. I feel respected. They've not interrupted me. Because remember, I don't know if any of you have experienced this when people interrupt you. Anyone who interrupts you is already thinking about what they're saying, they want to say, whilst you're chatting. So they're not hearing you at all. So anyone who's interrupting needs to, or if you feel like you need to interrupt, hold on to it because you're not listening to what someone said. Thinking win-win. Again, in an organisation it can be, no, but finance need to do this and expenses, this needs to happen with two different teams. And it can be, but I need to win, which means you need to lose. And that's not a great environment in teams. So wherever possible, thinking win-win. So it's right, this is what needs to happen. How can we work together to make this project work effectively, as opposed to trying to be quite confrontational? Or the other position would be that you think, well, I want to win, so you need to lose, and I'm going to do everything I can to manipulate you and rah-rah. Or you take the opposite position, which is, I never succeed, they always beat me down. So I lose, they win. And that creates resentment. You take that home and you have a whinge at your partner or whatever and say, oh, they did this at work today, but actually you are still immersing yourself in a situation where you feel it's okay for you to lose or to be walked over by others in the organisation. And that can be challenging, and that leads on to sort of the fourth point, but I'll go on to the third one at the moment, which is being proactive. So a couple of weeks ago it was Mental Health Awareness Week, and one of the themes was loneliness, and that the aim of that week was to build connections, so building positive connections. And I wrote an article with regards to trying to find ways to encourage greater connections in all different circumstances, especially at work. So thinking, in organisations that you have, if you work in a small organisation, you might know everyone you work with. But actually in a large one, you might think, do you know what, there's people in this entire room I've never spoken to. What would it be like to go, hi, my name's so-and-so, this is what I do. I did that very recently with a colleague, and I've actually found out that she knows something that's going to help one of my courses I'm delivering in college. I had no idea what she actually did. So by being proactive and just putting myself out there with a cup of tea that I hide behind and go, oh, hi, what do you do? Most people are very nice, they'll respond to that. It enabled me to benefit my work. So being proactive is important. The fourth one kind of links in with one of the themes of ethical bedding, which is being authentic to your values and working ethically. So, for example, wanting the best for people, wanting to be honest. So we talk about being congruent, offering respect. And I don't know if you've ever heard of a phrase, it is German, which is Schadenfreude. Has anyone heard of Schadenfreude? So it's where people take joy from seeing the misery of others. Which is, oh God, can you believe so-and-so did that presentation and they fell over? Yeah, can you believe that? That banter that's going on there is not connection, it's fake connection. It's people connecting over something which is not authentic. It's seeing the distress in others, as opposed to being very authentic. And the opposite of Schadenfreude being Freudenfreude, which is really celebrating the joy in others. Wow, you just did that amazing presentation. Oh, you got promoted. That's awesome. Those are the people you want in your squad. Those are the ones in organisations that you want to gel with, as opposed to those who just feel quite scary, quite toxic individuals where you think, I'm not sure I feel safe with you. And again, that links in with our pyramid of who do I trust and feel safe with. And hopefully that's kind of helpful with regard to some of the habits that we can use to enhance our relationships. So, our final task, what will be happening which would make you think you need to leave work? So this is where we look at things like the end of the relationship. So I think, so I don't know if you've ever heard of this metaphor, is that this is not to do with hurting any animals, but just as a metaphor, if you put a frog into a boiling pan of water, it will jump out because the water's too hot. But if you put it in there in cold water and you slowly turn up the heat, it will boil alive because it will stay in it and it won't move. Now you apply that to a work environment. Some people don't know the red flags. They don't know the red flags until they have massive physical or mental health issues and they are boiling and they don't realise it. If they had jumped into that situation from induction and went, wow, this is what this organisation's like, I'm not staying here. But many people stay in situations where they're boiling and they don't realise it. So that's kind of what we're going to be looking at now. What would be happening, so from mental health or physical health, how would you be behaving? And what would others be doing which would make you go, this is not okay, I need to get out of here. So we do that for about 10 minutes and then we'll come back together. Alright, if we can come back together then, that would be fantastic. And what we'll do is we'll just go around and take a few key points. I'm aware we're a little bit light on time. But if we just get, say, a couple of things from Gurpreet's group there. So what sort of things did you come up with? What would be happening where you would think, maybe I need to leave?
I think bullying, honestly. I've been in situations where I've been more directly bullied, but then also, and that's obviously impacted me directly on my mental health, and caused a lot of anxiety and upset and just made you not want to go into work. But also I've been in situations where I've witnessed bullying where I've not been the subject of the bullying behaviour, but seeing that happening in the workplace with someone that I work quite closely with and a colleague, and I've seen how that has impacted on them. And I don't think people quite realise as well the indirect impact that has on everybody else and the rest of the team. So witnessing bullying as well was almost as triggering as it was to actually be the...
Because you could be next almost, isn't it? If that's done to them, then it can be to you as well. And it links in with those UGRs, those unwritten ground rules. It's almost like this is okay. This is what's done in this organisation.
Yeah.
Particularly if it's a senior person, if it's an executive, it's the director or vice president or something that's doing it. It's very, you're a union person. That's a very difficult situation.
Yeah. And even having, more so when it was the indirect, I felt more inclined to go to HR, and I was having conversations with HR and saying, look, this is what's going on in this team, and I don't think it's right. And it was getting to a point where it was quite frustrating because I was offloading to HR, and it was good for my mental health because I felt like I was being able to talk it through, and HR was listening, but I wasn't seeing any action. I mean, in the end, it turned out that the person that was the direct line manager actually resigned and somebody else came in, so it changed things. So, it was fine again then when this new person came in, but I was at a point where I was ready to go.
But I think as well, it's like picking up on what you said there. It's noticing the behaviours that you have. It's the I don't want to go into work, and I just want to leave. I just want to get away. It's those things that would be happening to us where we go. There's no desire to actually start work and things like that. And it's I've got to go in. That thinking.
There's doing a bottle of wine as well every night afterwards.
We were talking about that over here actually. That actually self-medicating to just take the edge off. If you're working with a very toxic person and you've got their noise in your head, it's like I just want to drown it out. So that can happen as well.
Now I just enjoy a glass of wine.
That's well. Okay, fab. Let's go to the table at the back. What did you come up with, which could be happening?
If you don't feel you've got the confidence and or the respect to ask questions, get things right. If you're too scared to be held on character in any way, shape, or form, it's not a great sign, really. And I'm in product solicitors, so I get a lot of cases of this sort of things on a day-to-day basis, so you can see different levels of different things with it. But I think that was one of the most common themes, is where people say, I don't feel that my time is respected, or if I have a point, it's just shot down straight away and I'm ridiculed, that kind of thing. So I think that would be a big one. The time and respect from your peers and your supervisors and things like that.
it links in with one of the things on that pyramid, which is the freedom to be yourself and to show your uniqueness. If you're scared to sort of look up and say anything for fear of being shot down, you can see how that would prevent you from ever really truly thriving in an organisation. Yeah, good point. Anything else at all from your group?
We sort of moved on away from, I suppose it's a good sign for us, but started talking about the opposite of that, so like the good can be done, and we were saying about how I think whether it's a good or a bad thing, these flags, these things that give you indicators, they come both from the top down, but also from the bottom up. So the example I gave was someone else in my team, who's another administrator, invited everybody, including everyone in our team, out for lunch just on the day, and it was a really good sign that she felt comfortable to do that, because I think for me quite a big red flag is when there's sort of a big divide between like top level and bottom level, where there's not really much interaction. So I think, yeah, that was an example sort of the other way, but I think the red flag would be when there's a big divide and, like you were saying, a lack of respect for someone's time. So yeah, I think that was sort of the other side of it.
Yeah, perfect, okay. Your group, Nick.
Well, we've got
reduced
one of them left.
He's not feeling respected and heard.
No, yeah.
I think Brad, I think actually was right.
Yes. I think we talked a little bit about the physical manifestations when you go home, when you go past the stress for so long, you become fatigued, you don't want to go out with your friends, you've got low energy on the weekend. These are all signs that some of them, sometimes they get picked up by friends. I say, what's wrong? What's up? And what's on your mind? And that's when it's got into you, and then that's a proper red. And if someone else has to point out that red flag, you've been boiled.
Yeah, exactly that. We were talking in our group about other signs, like for example, sleep. If I'm not sleeping because of work, because things are going on and on, that might tell me that there's something going on with work that I need to look at. So those physical health factors, feeling really tired all the time, those aches and pains, because actually you're feeling really stressed and you're holding it in different places. Your own behaviours could be things like, as we said, self-medicating, avoiding going to work and just keeping your head down and just like not wanting to make eye contact, sitting in the back of meeting rooms to avoid certain people. The behaviour of others could be people perhaps quite manipulative, quite difficult with you, where they're in your face, where you feel threatened. You can kind of see how that would be playing right into where you might feel like, actually, I don't actually feel safe here. And so that links in with this. So if you're feeling unsafe at work because you're being bullied or there's a physical threat in any way, you can see how that's right above just food and shelter. So we need to feel safe when we're in our employment. And that sense of connection as well. So when you talk about there feeling like a hierarchy of, oh, those up there do this and we're down here, that's not feeling like there's a connection in an organisation, which feels quite different to the way you described how you work. So here we talk about our self-esteem, our need to feel like we're valued for our unique traits, skills, attributes, all those things that enable us to feel like we're valued for an individual. That I think when we spoke about feeling like we have a human connection as well when we go for interviews, that humanness, that we're actually being recognised and not just a number. So if we sort of think about here now, I think there's just something to reflect on, which we put at the top there, is where you feel you are right now in your organisation. Where do you feel that you might be? And recognising that if the only thing that you've got is it's paying the bills, that actually there's all these elements actually that will be having quite a significant impact on your well-being if that's the only thing that's happening, if you're not able to get any of these other things. Okay, so this is some thoughts that Nick had that he's found for us. Nothing will kill a great employee faster than watching you tolerate a bad one. So it's those ground rules in an organisation.
So it's also what someone can get away with is the level that that business operates at. And if you see someone getting away with something, that becomes that acceptable level, and that culturally is embedded. Everyone else has seen it.
It's viral.
Yeah. Yeah.
I quite like that one. You must find the courage to leave the table if respect is no longer being served. And I think if a person has been boiling, with my metaphor, if you've been sat in an organisation for a length of time, actually that can feel quite a hard jump, because your self-worth, your self-esteem is quite low. You can feel quite, your confidence can drop, where you can just sit in that for a length of time. And I quite like that one as well. People don't leave jobs, they leave toxic work cultures. So it's just useful thoughts. Okay then, so that's for us. This is our next event. Did you want to go on with that one?
Sure. Thank you very much, Nick and Emma. I just wanted to wrap up with a couple of slides. One is that we do have a meetup coming up. So this is Gen Z and understanding their needs and wants. And we've got Anne-Marie presenting that. That's on the 14th of June. It'll be online. So hopefully you can join us for that. I know what it is. You were keen on the online sessions. So this is very important if organisations are recruiting Gen Zs to understand, well, what do they want? What do they don't like? Yep.
Can you remind me what generation Z is and the paper?
So it's after the millenniums. So it's
Yes.
born in 2000 plus.
2000 plus, yes.
Anyone else 2005?
I think.
Yeah, I think it's
Yes, I'm
95.
I'm 91. I'm millennial. My young brother, born in 1995, and he's come some ways of coming. Sometimes he's Gen Z, sometimes he's
I think it's generally around 2000 plus. But you know, yeah.
It's, I get told I'm Gen Z and also millennial, and I'm 98. Born in 98.
Yeah, I think millennials are generally 90s onwards.
It's
Yeah,
somewhere around there.
yeah. So my children are mostly they're millennials, but these guys are Gen Zs.
Corporate from 1997 until 2012.
There you go. Yeah, good stuff. So if you're hiring them, if you want to retain them, then this is a good session to attend. We also do Thriving at Work workshops. So this is all about creating a healthy and ethical culture, exactly the opposite of the kind of cultures that people want to leave. Those toxic work environments. And actually, we're working with some organisations, quite large organisation, in fact, in Reading, to help them move from not such a great environment to a better environment. And the feedback on that has been great. And hundreds of people inside the organisation have been on this workshop and they love it. So this is really fantastic, I think, in terms of opening people's eyes around the connection between an environment, a culture, the values within that environment, and well-being of staff. And the connection between all of that with creativity and productivity, actually. In most organisations, you're leaving around about 20% of productivity on the table. You can actually tap into that, but also unleash people's individual potential, as Emma was talking. And we do hope you get involved with ethical Reading in one way or another. If you're an individual, please join our community, become a volunteer, just follow us. That would be fantastic. If you're an organisation, I would welcome you as a partner. That would be great, and get you involved in some of the programs that we do. And we've got programs around business ethics, well-being, sustainability, and we'll be launching actually our work around ethics in education. We've been piloting this year with Leighton Park School, and we'll be doing more of next year. So lots going on, and we'd love for you to get involved. Thank you.